Good afternoon on this reasonably humid May 27th day. God, I don't know. It's Wednesday, May 27th. Welcome to Talking Bollocks, part 60. Yeah, I can't believe that I've made it to part 60 already. It doesn't feel like I've done this 60 times, but then I think that must mean, or perhaps that means that I kind of got used to this status quo a little bit. It's kind of weird to think that, you know, in the case of a couple of months we can get used to massive change, but you know, I think we can. Whenever we leave something new or something changes or something is different, you know, we leave a relationship or we move on from something, then we can choose whether to embrace that and to deal with it or move on, I don't know. Anyway, it's kind of one of those days today where I woke up sort of forgetting what day it was, and then I was on Facebook and my daughter had posted a video, and today is the day 4 years ago that our beautiful Princess Leia, I have a photo here ready for you, our beautiful Princess Leia, who was a we're not entirely sure, but we think she was a Border Collie Cross Labrador, went to the Rainbow Bridge. Basically, Leia had got to a certain age and she had serious problems with her liver. And it was the sort of decision where it was hard to make, but it wasn't hard to make because Leia was suffering. She was having to go every day to the vet to have special fluids, and after 4 days of having special fluids and at the vets every day for sort of 7 hours a day. Don't be a dick with the flowers pudding. You know, for 7 hours a day, there was no change in her liver function. Her legs were really bad as well. Not sure how old she was. We got her in September 2003. So from that to that date is, you know, 12 years. But she was between 1 and 3 when we got her. The vets weren't too sure. She seemed quite young, and she was very skinny, but that's because she'd come from, we got her from Last Chance in Edenbridge, and they weren't entirely sure because the dog pound didn't know either. She'd been found wandering around in Wales, and unfortunately a lot of the dog pounds have, unless someone comes to claim them or the dogs weren't chipped, which she wasn't, they don't have room for them, and so they have a destruction policy. So Last Chance in Edenbridge is one of those places that would go once a week to Wales and pick up the dogs that were about to be put down, be euthanized. And Leia, I think within a week, they told me that she'd been picked up on the Saturday or the Sunday, and then on the Monday she'd been spayed because she wasn't spayed, and then on the, I think it was the Wednesday we saw her, and it was weird because we'd been looking for a dog, and at the time we had Imogen and Connor, so the two eldest, and they were 6 and 3. And lots of places don't give you, won't allow you to take, rescue places don't allow you to take a dog if you have children under 7, which is fair enough. Because some of these dogs are dogs that, you know, haven't had a great time. Obviously, a lot of the time they haven't. And so we went to, on the Tuesday, we went to the, you know, I'd phoned up Battersea, and we went up to Battersea. And we looked all the way around, and there was one dog in the whole place that they would allow us to have with an under 7-year-olds. And it hated cats, and we did we have you at the time, Pudding? Yeah, I think we had Pudding. No, at the time I think we had Simmy when we first got Leia, which was an old cat that we had. And it was a beautiful Dalmatian, but it absolutely hated cats. Like, it was a proper, like, it would just run across roads if it saw a cat. So that was kind of a big no. And then the next day we went to 2 places, so the Godstone RSPCA and then Last Chance in Edenbridge, and I'd phoned both beforehand and said, oh, there's suitable animals there, and there was. Now, when we got to the RSPCA, I don't know whether it's because the kids were being quite lively or that they'd changed their minds and said there wasn't any suitable dogs. And then there was 2 that morning, on the Wednesday morning, at Last Chance in Edenbridge. So drove over there, and I had the 2 kids and their dad with me, and we drove over them. We looked all the way round, and they told us the names of the dogs, and we couldn't find either of them. But, you know, we'd enjoyed saying hello to the dogs. They had a lot of big breeds there, like a lot. I think like 2/3 of the dogs there were big breeds, but a lot of them hadn't been treated very well, and some of them had been taken home and the person that had taken them had not understood the breed, or there'd been problems, so had brought them back. Well, for that dog must be devastating. They finally think they're going somewhere and then they're brought back. Anyway, so then we went back to the office and I was like, well, I can't find the 2 dogs that you're talking about. And one of them was a staff, and they went, literally, the people that you just walked past when you walked into the office have just reserved one of the dogs, which is the staff. And I was like, okay, well, there's no point looking at that dog then. They went, well, we have another dog called Inley, and she's a border collie cross something. And sorry, I've just got hair sticking to my lip gloss. And she's a border collie cross something, and, you know, she's just around the corner here. Let me take you to her. And I saw her. And she was so skinny at this point, and she looked so pissed off and so unhappy. Her ears were down. She just wasn't. I mean, you know, she was in a converted shed type thing, and she just wasn't happy. But she looked beautiful, and she and we went back and said to the office, you know, we're interested, but we want to see what she's like with the kids. So the person said, well, we've got free time now. We'll come with you to take her. We'll take her out for a walk across the field. It's like, great. That's, you know, it's very hard to see what an animal looks like when they're in their kennel, what a dog looks like in their kennel or their cattery, because they act incredibly different, because they're trapped in a place, you know. And so we took her across the field, and she wouldn't walk with anyone but the woman who had the lead. And she was like, look, we have a outdoor horse school. We don't have any horses at the moment, and there's been no horses in there recently. We'll take her in there and let her off the lead and see what she does. And that was it. Once we took her in this very dusty outside horse school, and the woman let her off the lead, and she just ran back and forth to me, to the kid's dad, to Imogen, to Connor, then back to me, and then she just kept on doing it. And I mean, later on when I really thought about it, I think she already maybe felt like that we possibly could be her family, and she was starting to round us up, which was brilliant. And I still have photos of that day. So we went and did all the paperwork. I think we paid £140. I don't know whether that's exact. That's the number I have in my head. And they said, well, we just got to double check your house. So we had the home check. That was the Wednesday. Had the home check on the Friday. And on the Saturday, I went with my sister to go and pick her up. And as soon as we put her in the back of the car, which was a Vauxhall Zafira at the time, she puked. And she puked a couple of times. And actually, every time I took her out in the car, no matter how far we're going, she puked each and every time she was in the car. And I think it might have had something to do with the fact that she was picked up and brought back from Wales, then spayed, and then was sort of in a shed. So whatever had happened to her had been really stressful. We tried to train it out of her. We tried giving her travel sickness tablets, but it was just nothing sort of really worked. I mean, she would get in the car. I mean, as she got older, we ended up getting her a doggy ramp where she could walk up this sort of plastic ramp that had, I guess, almost like a sandpaper on it. But it might have even been sandpaper, like a thick sandpaper, where she could walk up and get in the car. And we got her home and we let her chill for a bit, and then we went over South Mill Country Park. And they say that you're not supposed to take them off the lead, and I can see, because that makes sense. But Leia knew all of her commands already. She would sit, she would give paw straight away, She would stay. We were playing with her. The kids were playing with her for a bit in the garden. They'd throw a ball and she'd recall it straight away. So we went to the park and she walked so close to me that every step I took, she turned her nose in and touched my leg. So it became this kind of very funny walk. So I was like, well, this dog ain't going anywhere. So I took her off the lead and she just walked a hill. And she walked a hill for the rest of her life. I mean, she would go off. For her to go off and relax into going out for a walk. You know, at first she would only go a few feet and then look back and check. And eventually, over the years, you know, that would be further and further to the point she'd sort of only really come back on recall. She was such a clever dog. She knew hand commands and voice commands separately and together. And yeah, she was my first dog as an adult, as my own. You know, we had dogs at home when I was a kid, but she was my first, apart from sort of a cat that I fostered and never left called Simmy. Leia was the first pet that I guess I went and chose as an adult, and I kept myself. So I hope wherever you are, Leia, you're running free and playing with lots and lots of balls, of which you're a complete dick with sometimes. But yeah, what we normally do, or what we've done occasionally, is we've left a box of balls in the park with a sign and a picture of Leia, just to say, hey, this is to commemorate the passing of our beloved dog. If you or your family would like a ball for your kid, please take one. We haven't done it this year because obviously kind of the whole sort of lockdown things. I also think that we put the box by the first tree that she ever went and sniffed in the park. And I'll probably do it again at some point, maybe in September, when it commemorates the sort of the day that she came home. But I do think that pets are part of the family. I mean, often they're the part of the family that you get a little bit less pissed off than children. I mean, they do talk back in weird ways. But sometimes I'm over the country park, or I'm in this house and I look and I think I can see her. But not that I can see her, that I'm expecting her to sort of come down the hallway or be there, because she was a big part of my life and I miss her. And actually I have a tattoo on my right arm, and that is a sort of a piece by Dexter King of Hearts, that the whole sleeve is based on my beautiful Princess Leia. But yeah, I think pets are important. I think over the years, you know, I've grieved for pets, the children have as well, and to be responsible for something that is totally reliant on you, it's a big responsibility, but they give so much back. I mean, I know I'm sitting here with the cat that's kind of currently digging the back of her claws into my leg, because I'm not wearing any, so I've got shorts on, so she's feeling a little bit insecure. And I know I end up with loads of scratches on me, where she often gets a bit pissed off and I don't read the signs. But I also wouldn't be without them. I love them immensely, and they bring absolute joy and absolute joy into my life. And times in my life where I couldn't talk to anyone, or I felt like I couldn't talk to someone, or I didn't want to because I'm just thinking things through. Often when you sit there and you stroke your fur baby, and you know you receive so much love and you give so much love to them. Although with the cat I do feel like I'm her pet. I think it's the other way around with the cat. But yeah, I wouldn't be without them, and I'm glad that the children have been brought up, even though it's incredibly hard to watch your own children grieve for a pet, or grieve full stop actually. But it's also a really important part of life, and it cannot be denied, and it shouldn't be denied. And every year I'm going to post about Leia, and every year I will talk to somebody about Leia, Or like a friend was on a post that I put up earlier that, you know, she was reminiscing about when she'd fainted at home, and she did have a bit of a fear of big dogs, and she came to with me standing there with a glass of water with Leia very protectively right next to her. I think she was such an intelligent dog that she sort of really knew what was what and what was going on. Yeah, she was a beautiful, wonderful dog to have as my first dog as an adult in my own home. If you ever wondered about it, you know, there is something like the hellos that you get from dogs when you come in from the door, and cats as well. Sometimes, you know, Pudding's asleep and she wakes up and she realises I've come in, and you can see she's just kind of, I wouldn't go so far as happy, because, you know, cats are cats, right? But she is pleased that her pets come home. And Leia used to be so happy when we came home. In fact, she would be, you know, she would hear the car as it was at the end of the road. We sometimes, we didn't, you know, you couldn't possibly hear it from here, but she somehow did. Admittedly though, she didn't have a massively great sense of smell. She was a funny dog though, in that fireworks could be going off above her and she wouldn't care in the garden. There could be loud noises, shouting, but something she really, really, really hated was a smoke alarm going off. And whatever happened to her, and I know they're really high pitched, but there was lots of noise in this house with lots of children over the years, and they were quite high pitched, and some of their toys were high pitched. We think maybe whatever happened to her had something to do with a smoke alarm going off, because she would start going around the house checking where we all were and checking if we were okay. And I think she was sort of trying to round us up. Who knows what her history was before us, but I know that her history with us was beautiful and quite something. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, guys. I hope you are good and you're having an all right Wednesday. And I will see you tomorrow. See you later.